Okay, we are back. As I said, I guaranteed you. I guarantee all of you. All right, I guaranteed it. Okay, again, I guaranteed that we would go well over an hour with Mark Coleman. I knew we would go over an hour. So we are back. I'm going to give a couple of seconds here for people to join in before I get Mark back. But again, Mark and I have known each other for so many years. People have always said, I would love to be a fly on the wall when you guys are talking. So this is kind of your opportunity. Again, I knew we were going to go well over an hour, which I have no problem about. Seems like all the audio issues have been worked out. So again, we're halfway through here with Mark now at Morehead. He is applying for the position for a second time. And so let's bring him on.
Hey,
Dude, you there?
Yep,
You there?
I'm back.
Okay,
Yep.
so you apply for the position becomes available again, and
Yes.
one of your current or former cheerleaders at Graves, who's at Morehead, says, "Hey, the job's going to become available." You are like, "Okay, cool." So then the job does become available again, and so kind of go through that process.
Well, and when it first became available, I wasn't like, hey, let's go out and apply for the job that they didn't select you for last time. So I didn't. I was like, and I also felt like, Myron was going to be in control of everything, and he's going to pick who he wants, and and be in charge of the process. And even though I knew Myron, and even though, I mean, like I said, I never knew Myron, that well, but people always used to talk about him like he was not a bull crapper, or he was going to tell you straight up, and that's pretty awesome. That was all four of the Morehead coaches, the competitive coaches, all together. That's the one time we were all together. That was at homecoming, my first year.
Sorry for covering Tony. Sorry about that, but yes, those are the four Morehead coaches.
But that was pretty awesome, and so. I just didn't. I thought I wasn't super motivated to apply for something that I didn't get before. I didn't think they want me. And then I also thought, well, if they changed or they did want me, they knew that I applied for it before. But what I did not realize is that a totally new person was in charge of it. Like there was a new assistant AD for marketing, DW, and Darian. And so he was in charge of it, but he didn't even know who I was. He was somebody that had only been at Morehead, I think, a year plus, maybe almost 2 years. But he had, he didn't know who I was. He wasn't there the last time that I applied, so I wasn't on his radar. And so I was working with a guy that had just finished up his master's at Morehead and just competed with Morehead for the second time, Matt Dawes. Matt. Mm-hmm. And so Matt, through Ryan Knopfsinger, who was the former Grace County cheerleader who was cheering at Morehead, he gave my name to Matt because Matt was wanting to get into coaching, get into doing music, get into doing choreography. And so Ryan had worked for me the summer before, but I don't think he was interested in working again, or he was not trying to get into coaching. So he set up Matt. And so Matt was going to be my wingman that summer with my summer camps. Because what I used to do, traveling 7 or 8 hours in a car, or 5 hours in a car, and going from camp to camp all summer long can get a little lonely and monotonous. And so what I would do to help out some of the seniors that were graduating from Graves County or Reedland or one of the teams that I was coaching, generally they were from Graves County, I'd get them to come work with me and kind of let them be I'm a big Star Wars person, Padawan learner, let them kind of learn my process, but also just give me an extra set of hands, mm-hmm. somebody to, work with the girls, and just have some help, but also just to have somebody to talk to on the long drives and stuff and keep me awake. So that summer it was Matt. And so we were in Lexington, and I think Matt was, he was one of the incredible things about Morehead is just how involved the alumni are, and how much they care about the program continually, and how invested they are, and how they keep up with it. And so he was communicating with D-Dub about the job and checking up and see, like, have you found a new coach or what have you. And so we were sitting in my study, in my office in Lexington, and he, and we were talking about it, and he was like, would you be interested? And I'm like, Matt, man, I applied for the job 3 years ago. I was like, I don't think they want me. And so he was like, well, I really think you should apply. And so he's texting D-Dub. And so D-Dub says, well, I don't know. Darian didn't know who Mark Coleman was. And so he's like, well, get him on the phone. So Darian calls me, and we're sitting there, and I think we talked for like an mm-hmm. hour. in my
Oh,
office
wow.
there. Yeah, that first time. And so, and Matt had, kind of given me the thumbs up. And so then, I got off the phone with him. I called Myron again, and I was like, hey, I really want this job. Should I apply for it again? I was like, I didn't get it last time. And he was like, yeah, he encouraged me to apply for it. So then, Darian came to Lexington. I think that was a Wednesday or Thursday. He set up a dinner with my wife, and I think, was Sterling a baby? Did we have kids yet? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think Sterling was a toddler. Porter was like an infant. And so we met at this, I can't remember the name of it, but I remember we ate water buffalo in Lexington, and had like an hour and a half, 2 hour long dinner, and talked about the job. And I really had a good feeling after that dinner that like this was something that could happen. But he was like, you're gonna have to like apply through the website and do all the things and send in your resume, and so the first time I applied for the job, I had actually done a phone interview with Myron and the AD, Brian Hutchinson. And so, I did that before, but this time we kind of forego that. And so they brought me in to interview, like the formal interview on campus. Generally, Morehead brings in like 2 candidates. And so they brought in me and somebody else. And I don't know. I don't want to say who the other person is because it doesn't matter. But I will tell you this. I kind of when I found out who the other candidate was, it was somebody that had won partner stud. It was a Team USA alum, and like this very prominent, like at the time, like current athlete, really talented cheerleader. And I was like, great, you got me. I'm the like Honda Civic. I'm like
the reliable,
the reliable,
good gas mileage.
Like good gas. You're going to get long years and a lot of good service, and it's going to be reliable. But it's and then you got the Lamborghini. You got the sexy, super awesome, like going to be fun to drive. Probably not going to get a lot of years out of it, but like that's how I felt. And I actually told that story to my AD because, well, remind me to come back to that. So anyway, we go and do the interview, and I thought the interview went okay. Like, I mean, I thought it went fine. I met everybody in athletics. I met the vice president of the university. I think the president was out of town. So I met the vice president, Madonna Weathers. I met her and had a good talk with her, and she seemed to like me. And I met all the marketing people, and they seemed to like me. And I remember that there were like 3 or 4 cheerleaders that were still in town, and they did like the team interview.
Yep.
And I had heard like crazy stories. Jason Keogh at one point had interviewed for the job the first time, and I just had heard that the team was like not very agreeable, and like so I was like worried that they were going to just like, I don't know, be really nasty, and it wasn't bad at all. And it really, the people, I remember a few of the people that were in there, and they were probably 3 of the, like, I don't know, the people that were kind of my fans, like, once I got the job. But so I had the interviews, and I thought it was going to go pretty well, and I had a good feeling about it. But what was crazy about that, I had just accepted the LCA coaching position.
I remember that. Yep.
At LCA. Like, so they had been bugging me. My wife had gotten a job at LCA, Lexington Christian Academy. And, Sterling had started to go to kindergarten there. We love the school. It's a private school. We can't really afford it, like, especially once you get to high school. But, like, because my wife worked there, our kids, it was half price. And so they were bugging me about being their cheerleading coach. And I was like, look, the only way that I would go to doing that, to be a high school cheer coach, because, like, holy crap, like, if there are beyond teachers being underpaid and underappreciated, I would say high school cheerleading coaches are not far behind. And just like the income to the level of bull crap that you have to put up is just crazy low for the income. And so I was like, look, the only way that would make any kind of sense is like if you guys, like, the cheerleading coach wouldn't be a full-time position. I was like, because it just wasn't. But I was like, if you let all of our kids come, basically treat me like an educator or a teacher, like a full-time staff, the way my wife was, and you let all of our kids go to school for free, I was like, I'll be your cheerleading coach. And he's like, well, I'll take it to the board. And I thought there was no way.
Yeah, no way.
No. So I thought that was the end of it. And then I'm picking my Sterling up or going to see my wife at school like a week or two later. And he was like, hey, the board approved it. You're going to have a meeting with them. And then, if that goes well, then you're going to be our next cheerleading coach. And so I had just taken that and was like, trying to build that, like start that program. Like they had multiple coaches in multiple years, like a lot of programs. The program was really kind of down. They didn't have a ton of talent. I spent the first couple of weeks trying to beg some of the talented cheerleaders that had quit because the team wasn't that good and was just getting that started. And so, and then the Morehead thing happens. And I'm like, man, okay, so I'm super excited about this Morehead thing, but why now?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, I just.
When it rains, it pours, man. Always.
Yeah, I'm like, well, and I'm like, yes, but I'm like, I like to follow through on things, and I don't like to, like, if I make a commitment, I'm going to stick to it. And I was like, man, I don't believe that this happened. Like, I just committed to LCA, and now here this happens. And so we were at UCA camp at UK with LCA, like the elite camp, when I got the phone call that I got the job. Darian called me and said, congratulations, you're the next coach at Morehead. And I was like super excited. Like I said, I had a good feeling after the interviews. I thought that it was going to happen, but like I didn't know. And then he told me, but here I am at camp with my high school team that I just hit, I'm like trying to push these kids. I begged some of the girls to come back to the team, and I told them it was going to be different. It was going to be consistent. And here I am. And I find out that I'm leaving and I'm going to have to quit. And I'm, and at some point moving to Morehead. And so I called the athletic director at LCA and told him that I'd been offered the job. And like, he was super cool about it. He's like, man, we kind of understood what we were getting when we got you and like just the success that you had. And he understood. He's like, you get these opportunities. So no ill will. I was really pleased that he was happy. And so I go back over and I'm like, how am I going to tell my girls? Because I was like in the middle of camp, I'm like, well, I think we were like day 2 or day 3 of camp. And I was like, man, maybe I'll wait to the end of camp. But I told Ryan Heinrich, who was cheering at UK at the time, who was one of my former athletes at Reedland High School. And he was one of the main instructors at the camp. And I told Ryan, and he was like, man, that's super awesome. Congratulations. So then in the middle of stunt class, we broke and we come back.
I remember this now.
And Ryan's like, hey, everybody, let's give a big congratulations to Mark Coleman. He just got hired as the head coach of Morehead State. And all 12 girls go. And I felt really crappy.
Well, you should have, Mark. You should have felt terrible.
And by the look of my face, Ryan looked at me and he goes,
for those of you that are listening to the podcast later, Mark is lipping, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it wasn't his fault. I should have told him. Obviously, I was super excited. But yeah, so that was nuts. And so Morehead was on the verge of getting ready to go to camp. They had already started their summer work week. So that was I think that was a Monday. That was like day 2 or day 3 of UCA camp. So I had to finish UCA camp. So Wednesday was the first day that I could get to Morehead for the first practice. So I get to Morehead. I walk into my very first practice. One of the few practices that I got to do with Myron. This is one of the few like coaching. There you go. One of the few coaching anecdotes that I have with Myron. He was pacing back and forth and like super upset that the team was struggling because it was a co-ed practice that I was able to go to. But that first co-ed team, I think we had 9 freshmen boys.
Yeah.
Out of like 13 or 14.
I remember you telling me you guys were super young that year.
Super young. And so I'll never forget, Myron was pacing back and forth like a panther. He was really, really like, we can't do pull-ups in the fight song, and there might have been a cuss word in there. we can't do pull-ups in the fight song. And I'm kind of a Harry Potter fan, and I was like, Myron, like, I don't have a magic wand in my back pocket, but I will work as hard as I can so that we can get pull-ups back in the fight song. And to let you know, it was almost 2 years before we did. Like,
sure.
it was a long process. So, but yeah, that was my first practice. And so then that was in the middle of July. My first like official day wasn't until August.
Yeah.
and that was Wednesday. They were leaving for Bama to go to Alabama UCA camp the next morning. So I did one practice with co-ed, I did one practice with all girl, and then they left the next morning, and I had a flight to Bama to meet, because I had something like the earliest I could get down there was Saturday. And so my next memory of that, I think those next couple of days were like a whirlwind of like going to, Morehead and getting my ID made and getting keys and all that stuff and starting the administrative stuff. But then I got to Bama, and I'll never, just to kind of tell you the challenge that I was stepping into. I walk onto the field at the turf at Bama. Bill Seeley comes straight at me.
Who's president of Varsity Brands, by the way.
Yes.
President of Varsity, yes.
Yeah. And a George Mason alum. After that year, George Mason defeated Morehead at Nationals in 1990. And anybody, if he thinks you're related to Morehead, I'm assuming he tells this story to other than just me. But he loves to tell me the story about, we're the reason why you're missing a banner up there. And so anyways, but that time he comes up to me and he puts his arm around me and he's like, dude, Morehead, rough year for you guys this year. And I'm like, thanks, Bill. I haven't even been on the job. This is like the 6th hour. And so that was kind of the beginning. And that first year was crazy challenge.
Oh, first of all, Krista from Bama's on this. She's like, yep, he tells it all the time. So, Krista, thank you. By the way, Krista is joining me tomorrow, which I'm super excited about. But yes.
If I was a college national champion as an athlete, I'm sure I would probably tell people the story a lot too. And that was one of the few times Myron got beat,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it was it 12 or 13 years before he lost again. So he obviously, if you know anything of, if you know very little about Myron other than the fact that he won at Morehead, but he got beat that year and it didn't happen again for a really, really, really long time. So obviously just a smart man and an amazing coach, and just to do anything for that, to have that level of excellence for a tremendously long time is incredible.
So real quick again, for those of you joining us, I'm with Mark Coleman, good friend of mine, head coach at Morehead State University. We're going to start up our Q&A here in a few minutes, but at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a question mark that looks like a deck of cards. Tap on that question mark, type in your questions, and Mark will answer as many as we can here before we get to the Q&A.
Let's be real. I'll answer 2 questions because I'll talk so much.
But I saw Chris White, Morehead alums, on here. He was here making some comments. So a lot of Morehead alums are on here. But, just to kind of give you people, about Mark and I. So we've done some camps together. And Mark and I have traveled out to Connecticut, where we did some WWE in front of the WWE building. And this is one of my favorites, Raising Cane's. That's our jam, is some Raising Cane's. If anybody out there from Raising Cane's is listening, I would love you as a sponsor. You can sponsor me for free. Just give me some free canes and I will do it for free. And then probably one of my favorite memories is sushi night. When Mark,
do you remember
how many pieces of sushi did you eat? Was it 54 pieces of sushi?
53.
Mark Coleman, in one sitting at an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet, ate 53 pieces of sushi. I had 20-some, and as you can see, I'm dying there.
You can that little story alone tells you probably all you need to know about me. One, and you two, how much we love eating.
Yeah, we do. If you follow either of us on Instagram, we're foodies. There's food on there all the time. Absolutely.
And I've stopped doing that because I know a lot of people get annoyed about that. And honestly, I don't like to see somebody's salad or whatever on my social feed. But you and I, we'll
yes.
text each other.
Yes.
Actually, we made some homemade cane sauce last night.
Ooh.
And I was trying to text it to the text group with you and me and Scott and everybody. Yep. And I couldn't find it. And I was I was taking the photo and then I was carrying it, so I sent it to Scott, but it was pretty good. The recipe is online, but it's not quite the same. But my wife did a good job making that. But yeah, loving food and enjoying eating And then again, how competitive I am. You guys said, well, I bet you can't eat 50. And I ate 53. I mean,
Mark and I have done some camps and choreographies together, and we continue to do so. And it's been a great friendship and a lot of fun. Again, we're going to get to Q&A here in a couple seconds. Lowell High School having some mi ranchito tonight for dinner. Good job, Lowell.
yes.
We will hopefully see you with them this summer with all this crazy stuff going on. Hopefully we can see them this
Yeah.
summer. But again,
Yeah.
at the bottom, you're going to see a question mark. Tap on that question mark. Send any questions to Mark about himself, about Morehead State. I know a big thing we'll talk about here in a couple seconds is how colleges are dealing with tryouts and all that good stuff. But so Mark obviously has now been at Morehead. Is this your 7th year completed? 7th?
It's finishing up year 7.
Yeah, man. I mean, good. Congratulations. I mean, Morehead's obviously been very successful. Has won the large co-ed and large all-girl Division I multiple times now. And but something I did want to talk about real quick is your being a traitor to our country and Benedict Arnold.
Yes.
No. But seriously. The great things you've done with Team Finland all-girl, who now the last 2 years has won ICU. Kind of talk about the experience of, well, first of all, how did you get the gig? But then just kind of the experience of working not just with a different team, but in a different country. How has it been working with the Finland Federation?
Well, let me first say that I can take very little credit for how amazing those teams are. I mean, I go over there a couple times a year and I help them and I get to travel with them to ICU. And I definitely, I think, I've obviously helped them, but Maria, the head coach, and just Jake and some of the other people, they have incredible coaches there, and then they have incredible athletes, and that's the blessing. I mean, it's been so cool to be able to go and travel. I mean, one of the cool things about our job is that we get to work with young people and motivated people, and we get to compete and just, in all different ages. And then to travel internationally has been awesome. But I first started going over to Finland in 2006. And really it was all because of Jomo. Jomo, obviously head coach at UK, gets all kinds of opportunities, and he's traveled internationally quite a bit. And he went over to Helsinki, and then they wanted him to come back, but his schedule wouldn't allow it because of UK. And so he recommended me. And so I went over there and worked with the Funky team, the Gorillas, and then the Funky team.
For people that don't know, they're an excellent co-ed team over in Europe. Excellent.
I think they're on 16 or 17 national championships in a row. Just the most successful co-ed team over there. And they don't cheer for games. Mm-hmm. So cheerleading in Finland is strictly competitive, and through all-star programs. And they don't cheer. I mean, hockey's the big sport there, so they don't cheer. They don't really cheer at games, or they don't understand that. That's one of the challenges for ICU. They have to learn how to cheer. They have to do the cheer at the beginning, and none of those athletes do that. They have to learn how to do that. But I went over in 2006, and I guess I did a good job, because the next year they brought me back, and that time I went for 2 weeks, and I worked with all their teams. And then I did a camp with the Gorillas and helped choreograph part of their routine that year, and taught them pyramids and taught them stunts, a ton of baskets, and just had an awesome experience, and just loved working with the athletes. And so that was 2007, and so then fast forward, when the Finnish Cheer Federation, when they decided that they wanted to, they had been successful and had a good team. They had been sending their national champ every year as their representative, kind of like what USA does with their dance teams sometimes, or their junior national team sometimes. They'll send they'll pick a team that's been training together and go. They decided that they wanted to do a true all-star team, and then they decided they wanted to try to bring in some international coaches, and they reached out to me, and I was like, I think a lot of it was to do that. I'd just gotten the job at Morehead a couple years before, and so I had my all-girl teams, had been amazing and super successful. And then, but a lot of it was based off of the experiences from 2006 and 2007. Some of the athletes that I worked with that were athletes then were now coaching. One of those was Jake, and he was on the coaching staff. I had never worked with Mario before, but I guess they talked, and they tossed some names around, and they reached out to me, and I was extremely honored. But the first thing that I did was reach out to USA Cheer and be like, I would love, I'm a pretty patriotic person. member of the Sons of the American Revolution, and my mom's traced our genealogy back to like the Plymouth, and she's been trying to Plymouth Rock and the Pilgrims, and
Oh, that's cool.
she's in all these different societies. And I mean, I tear up at the end of the glory movies, and like the what's the hockey movie? Miracle. I mean, like, I'm pretty patriotic, so like it's not like I was like, yeah, I want to go compete against the Americans, but I just saw it as an opportunity to travel internationally and do it. So I asked for USA Cheer's permission, and they were like, go do it. And so it's just been a tremendous honor and a tremendous blessing, and it's been a lot of fun, and obviously just to work with incredible athletes. I mean, I tell people all the time that I have the best job in the world. I truly believe that. And I get to work with the best athletes. And in any given year, between my Morehead athletes and the athletes on Team Finland, some of my high school athletes and some of the programs that I get to work with, I mean, I'm truly blessed, and just, it's so fortunate. And, I've had a lot of success, but it's due to the athletes. I mean, I work extremely hard, and I'm, been doing it for years. I've been coaching pretty much full time for 21 years, but I've been coaching for 25 years, and just love what I do. And I've worked really hard and spent a lot of time. But I've also been very fortunate to work with incredible athletes, incredible coaches at the high school level. I mean, if John Somerville doesn't have the knowledge and just the willingness to go out and get outside help and bring in Jomo, and that helped bring me in, and to continue to bring in outside help. And then, and even after they had success, to continue to bring me back in. And then, the coaches at Blackman, Jennifer McKenzie at McCracken, and Courtney and Heather at Blackman, like, just really been blessed to have a lot of different opportunities with a bunch of different programs, that I've really enjoyed working with, and obviously been able to help. But it's been awesome.
Well, it looks like we do have some questions ready to go. All right, so hopefully the sound effects picked up here. Let's see.
Oh, yeah. That sounded so much better. The other day, I was listening to, I don't know, it was Bruce yesterday, or maybe even Josh from a couple days ago.
Uh-huh.
It sounded kind of garbled, and I was like, man, like, the sound effects don't even sound. I mean, you get the gist. You and I both love that sound effect, that voiceover, and the old school music, like,
oh goodness, yes,
like the old cheer music, the way that it used to be, like, boom, boom, oh yeah.
I mean,
just in some way, where the sound effects were like so much louder than everything else, and that's one thing. Touching on the cheer music again, that I think that I learned a lot from Salim. And working with him and working with UK, was the importance of having those sound effects in there to kind of accent things. Like, I listened to my old mixes before, like from early on, and I can barely listen to them because they were just so novice, and like the level of them was they weren't very professional, but they served their purpose. And one of the reasons why I kind of got into music was to have that control. I don't think I finished that. Like, I'm kind of a maven. Like, I want to choreograph the routine and coach the athletes and teach the skills and do the music and have complete control. Now, with Morehead, like, I've been fortunate enough when we still had dances in college, to bring in Blake Johnson, who is, incredible and way better than, I can do dances, but like much rather get somebody like that. But, when possible, especially early on, like, I don't have the money or when I was first starting coaching to bring in someone like that to do it. And I didn't even know any like big time choreographers. When I first started coaching, you pretty much had to choreograph your own routines. The whole choreography business didn't really kind of pick up until years later. And so, and the same thing with the custom music, like having custom music was an advantage, because when I cheered, I don't know if this was the same for you. Like, when I went to nationals, everybody had the same music. Like, everyone was taking, like, there was the cheer mix CDs back then.
Yeah, the CDs, cheer rock and stuff like that. Yep.
And you would take like the cool track or the best sounding track off of that. But the thing about the original cheer mix CDs, they weren't even real songs. Like, they were like just like kind of what cheer is now, but they were like upbeat songs. Come on, yeah. Like, but they weren't real songs. But then learning how to do SoundForge and having a computer and having the access to where you could put Bon Jovi, you could put Final Countdown in your, you could put, if you want that. And those early routines, in addition to like picking songs that I liked to listen to, and back then too, like, the judges are a little bit older. Like sometimes the kids on the team would be like, can't we have like this or Little John or blah, 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 Lady Gaga, whatever, like the big song is. But I'm like, yeah, but your coaches are a little bit older, or the judges, the people watching these routines are a little bit older. You need to think about I want you to like your music, but you need to think about what appeals to them too. And so I would always try to like do that, but I would also try to do like pick one song in each mix that you hadn't heard in a cheer routine before, that you're like, oh, Don't Disturb This Groove, man. I freaking love that song from the 80s. Like, but I've never heard it in a cheer routine. And so like I would try to do that sort of stuff too, like to have a song that'd be like, ooh, I like that song. Ooh, I like that song. Ooh, that's my jam from sixth grade. That like I've never heard that in a cheer routine before. So I would try to do that sort of stuff too. So,
all right. So first question is, let's just get right to the point here. How much longer do you think you'll be coaching at Morehead?
I plan to be here until I retire.
Really?
So,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my first 4 years that I worked here, I had to commute. And that was mainly when I got the job, when I was hired at the end of the summer, again, talking about the insurance and about having a legitimate job. I couldn't put my family on my Morehead. My first paid day of Morehead was August. So I started working at Morehead, 2 weeks before I was actually like an official employee. And I couldn't set up our insurance and stuff. That all took time. So we still had to keep our insurance through my wife's job at LCA, and she had already signed her contract for the next year. So when I got hired, it was not like the best time for me to take that job. So I started, and I was commuting from Lexington every day, and she had to keep her job, and she kept her job at LCA for a couple of years, but then we kept having kids. And so then at one point it was like, do you spend so much in childcare? Do you miss, raising your kids, or do you work? And so at one point she decided to leave her job at LCA and just stay at home and raise our kids. But like for the boys, like there was a time I was like daddy daycare. Like for Sterling and for Porter, I changed more diapers and took care of them more during the day than my wife did, because we were kind of tag team. Like she would go to work in the day and go work at Georgetown, and then later LCA, and then I would keep the boys during the day, and then I would tag her in, and then I would go coach cheerleading and do stuff in the evenings and at night. And so when we first got the Morehead job, I was commuting, and then and then a couple years later, it was just like, man, let's move to Morehead. But the housing market was so bad there for a while, and we were gonna like kind of take a bath on selling our house, and we just couldn't really afford to do that. So we waited another year. So it wasn't until about almost 4 years ago that we actually moved to Morehead. But once we did, we live, Morehead's kind of off the beaten path anyway, but we live almost on a farm, 7 miles out of town, kind of, and we've got a 2-acre lot here. We love where we live. The kids, there's a creek that runs behind our house. Used to be a golf course, but now it's like an abandoned golf course behind us. And so the kids can run wild. They can ride their bikes. They can play. We've got a goat in our neighborhood that like
it's a golden goat.
We've got a bunch of outdoor cats. We've got a Coleman Zoo at our house, but we love where we live. We love the community. Morehead's, like honestly, if Morehead had like an Applebee's and a Target, if I could go and get an app, if you could come to Morehead and you and I could share an app, then
hey dude, you want to share an app?
then I really wouldn't want for much of anything. My wife and I love shopping at Target, and we there's a Target in Lexington. If we had a Target and we had like an Applebee's or a Chili's or something like that, there really would not be anything that I would miss. But we love living here in Morehead. We love the school. Our children go to an elementary school that's like not even 2 miles from our house. So most days, I can take my kids to school and then I can go to work. It's a super safe community. It's a beautiful part of the Commonwealth. I mean, we just love Morehead as a town and as a community. And goodness gracious, if you're competitive and you love working with great athletes, there's not a better job that I could find. I mean, this, like I said, this is my dream job. This is what I've always wanted. And I would hope that the people that interact with me, you know, not just like this when I'm, you know, we're having fun and talking, but like if they see me on a normal day, or in practice, or, you know, at a game or something, they can tell that, I mean, I love my job, and just, I love the athletes. I love the traditions. I truly think that we have the best, you know, college cheer program in the world. And, you know, we love living here, and we want to raise our kids here. We want to have, you know, keep our family here. And, you know, I moved around a little bit, you know, from being born in Kentucky and then moving to Germantown and then moving to Tullahoma. But my parents, you know, I was fortunate enough, they kind of did it at strategic times. Like they moved at the end of my freshman year. So I still had 3 years at Tullahoma to kind of be at the same high school. And then they waited. They moved. They're back in Arkansas now, where my mom was born and raised. But they waited till my brother graduated from high school. He went to Madison Central High School in Richmond, Kentucky, and they waited till he graduated. So they tried to be very strategic and think about, like, you know, it's not always a great time to move, but they would do it at a time when it would be the least invasive. And so, you know, they waited till I graduated and I went to Vanderbilt, and then they moved to Kentucky, and then they waited till my brother graduated, and then they moved back to Arkansas. And so we feel like we like where we're at. Like Sterling is going to be my star, my actor, my performer on Broadway when he's older. If you follow me on social media, you see all my posts about Sterling singing and dancing and performing. And there's a lot of opportunities for him here in Morehead. The high school play system is incredible. You know, that was one of the joys of being at LCA, because Sterling was in his first play at 5. And so we were able to do that because my wife worked at LCA, and she was really good friends with the choir director and the choral director and the guy that did all the plays. And so, you know, one of our concerns moving to Morehead is like, will Sterling get those opportunities? Will he be able to be in plays? But when we found out the Lexington Children's Theater, which Sterling would do every summer and do camps, they do a satellite campus at Morehead. So every year he gets to do his theater camps, and he's been able to, you know, to audition and try out for the Rowan County High School play system, and they do an incredible job. So like everything that we need or want is here. My wife's family is like 30-45 minutes away in Grayson, so we're closer to her family, and obviously, you know, they help take care of the kids from time to time, especially when I'm traveling or Shanna's traveling or going to nationals and stuff. They help out with the kids, and so that's a tremendous benefit. Like having her family be closer. You know, our kids before didn't get to see their cousins that often, but now that we're, you know, 45 minutes closer than we were before, it's not as big of a deal to take them to Grayson and let them hang out with their cousins. So really, Morehead has everything. I mean, outside of cheerleading, you know, like cheerleading is everything that I would ever want to have and more. But the city and the county here has everything that we have, and we love it. So I don't really see any, I mean, if somebody wanted to offer me some outrageous salary, like, you know, do you want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars to go somewhere? I mean, we would have to consider doing that, but you know, that's not going to happen. So no, there's no place I would really ever want to be. Just love the program. You know, I want to be here and really trying to establish, you know, my part of the legacy, my part of the tradition. You know, I've now been here longer than any other coach other than Myron. And so, you know, he was the coach, I think, for 20. I mean, they competed with Myron for like 15 or 16 years, I think. But he was the coach for almost a decade before that. And so, I don't know. I want to retire in this position. So I'm planning on being here for a very long time.
Okay, real quick, we're going to pick your brain real quick on a couple of stunting techniques. Number one, how do you get your girls to stunt with such amazing technique?
Well, I would say practice, practice, practice. And then anybody who's ever worked with me, you know, I was a mechanical engineering major at Vanderbilt, and, you know, an engineering student, have an engineering science degree. I probably over-explain things. I'm a geometry person, so like angles and stuff like that, physics makes sense to me. So I really try to describe things like that, the way I see things, like the angle that someone enters in a back handspring, the angle that you throw something, your hand placement, you know, all those technique things are super important to get stunts to look the best that they can and to be efficient and fast. And so I try to break things down. I mean, and in a way, probably I overtalk them a lot of the times, but I'm one of those people that I'm a geometry person. I'm not an algebra person. So I never liked algebra. Like, you told me that this is this because some guy 500 years ago proved some theorem or whatever. Like, I've got to take it. Like, I don't like that. I want to be able to draw it, measure the angle, do the equation and figure it out. And so I and there's a lot of physics in cheerleading. And so I think I use my engineering brain, my, understanding of that sort of stuff to explain things and just try to help the athletes understand that stuff. And then I would just say practice. And then obviously when you have incredible athletes like I do at Morehead, that makes everything a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Can you go through grips for an extended hand-to-hand? So I guess, co-ed and all girl you can go through.
Yeah. I'll start with all girl because I feel like maybe that's what she's talking about, but there's two ways to do it. When we first started doing the extended hand-in-hands at Morehead, we did them with the backhand. So whether if you're the side base, your backhand is your right hand, or if you're in the main base, your backhand is your left hand. We started doing it like that. But you can do it either way. Two years ago at Morehead, we had a transition where we went from a back handspring up, and then we power pressed down, and they released their front hand and shook hands. So you can do it either way. When I worked with Finland, we did it another way. We did it with the front hand. So it's really kind of personal preference. I think one of the reasons why we started with the backhand, if you look at how the top girl is getting on top of her hands in the extended hand-in-hand, if you're doing it from a load from the ground, it's a straighter line with the backhand. Because where you can put your hands closer to your body to get the distance apart that the bases need to be for the top girl to create a line through her wrist, through her elbows, through her shoulders to keep everything in straight lines. It's easier with the backhand because if you do the front hand, I think that pulls where the top girl's weight is. Like, she's starting on the ground with her weight through her feet, and she's trying to lean over her hands and try to put a little bit of weight in her hands. But the further away her hands are from her feet, the harder it is for her hips to stack up on top of her hands. And I think using the backhand just makes it an easier line. But your hands start backward facing, and then as you go up, your hand rotates, back to the front with your fingers front, and you stack. I can't do it because I'm going to show it. If you can't hear me, I'll try to talk louder for a second. But like, you stack your hands, and as you go up, your hands turn, and then you re-grab. And so that using both hands helps you get more power. But like I said, I think using the backhand allows you to have a straighter line and makes it easier for the top girl to get her hips up. But you can do it either way. If you're doing it from if you're loading from a squish, or you're loading from a prep level and you're shaking hands with the top girl, I think in a lot of ways that entry is a lot easier for the top girl because now her hips are higher. Okay. If you're on the ground, like, her hands are here, but if she's reaching down to shake hands with a base when they're releasing their front hand, that's making it easier. Her hips are already up. She's already starting to get into that position where she's transferring more of her weight to her hands. And so I think, there's benefits to doing it. Like, if you're trying to get to an extended hand-in-hand, sometimes I think it's easier for the top girl if you load from a prep level and shake the front hand and then drive it up. And in some ways, I think it's easier for the bases too, because you've already got her off the ground and you're using your legs. One of the most important things is stunt using your legs. Well, what does that mean? Well, using your legs means you're not extending your arms before your legs lock out. And if your arms are already at chest level and you dip, this motion to extension is faster than starting with your hands down at like an elevator load position here and standing up. So you've got to do more work. Your hands have got to move further. You got to take her weight off the ground. If you've got her in the air at prep level, then it's less work that you're having to do. So I think there are benefits to doing it from prep level, but you can start with either hand. If you start from prep level, then you have to start with your front hand under, and you shake hands and you just drive up, and your hand doesn't have to turn as much because you're basically turning your hand to shake hands with the top girl. And so you're driving straight up. But if you're doing the backhand and loading from like a squish position, you're going to start with your hands like this and then rotate your hands up. So that was a really long answer. I hope
no, it was great.
Hope answer the question.
what tumbling skills is required for the co-ed team? So you can go over males and females real quick.
Yeah. The only minimum requirement that we have right now is a solid standing tuck, and we do 10 tucks as conditioning a lot. So it needs to be super solid. For tryouts, in your last year, and then even on this year, we asked for a video of you doing 10 consecutive tucks. Sit 1, 2, land 3, 4, stand 5, shrug 7, sit 2, 3, up 5. But depending on the caliber of people, like we wouldn't necessarily cut somebody because they can't do 10 tucks now, but we do require that they're able to do it by the time they report for work week. So, and I can tell you that almost everybody that tried out for the team last year was able to do 10 tucks. Now we did take a couple of people that had to work on it between tryouts and our summer work week. And, but majority of the year last year, everyone was able to do that. And the reason why we do the 10 tucks is I just think it's an excellent conditioning thing. And it's also like, if you can do 10 tucks, you've got a super solid tuck. You're going to be able to do your tucks with palms. You're going to be able to do your tuck in the fight song. You're going to be able to do your tuck in the third quarter. You're going to be able to do your tuck in the fourth quarter or the second half of basketball games when we do the fight song. So like you've got a super, super solid standing tuck. And that's the only minimum requirement. Now, if you're a female athlete, I think I'm pretty much looking for some sort of full twist. I mean, I think last year we had probably 41 or 42 females in the program, and all but like 4 or 5 had a full. So it's quickly becoming pretty much where a full is a requirement, but it's not. I haven't listed that as a requirement just yet. I mean, it's definitely what we're looking for, and especially on the all-girl team, I'm looking for standing tumbling to fulls, standing fulls. The level of tumbling nowadays with the athletes coming out of high school is just incredibly high.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, but the standing tuck is the only minimum requirement. But I'm definitely, so I would say like standing tuck and a round of handspring tuck would be like the minimum we would be looking for, and the ability to do 10 standing tucks. But really, really looking for some sort of full twist.
Here we go.
Tips is giving us crap.
Tips is like, you guys are still going? It's been like 2 hours. How many rings do you have as a coach and athlete?
As an athlete, none. I only competed with Vanderbilt in '97 one time. We finished 17th and didn't make finals. So we didn't win a ring there. I never competed with UK. And I did compete with my all-star team. I remember that. That open team. Yeah. I had an open team that won WCA Nationals and went to Worlds in 2006, I believe. It was an open team and at Pep Club. And one of the regional competitions that we did leading up to nationals, one of my athletes, his grandmother passed away, and so he had to go to a funeral, and I had to compete at UCA. And so Demond, you know Demond, right?
Demond's great, good dude.
I practiced one day on Saturday, and we went full out, I think 3 times. And my wife was giving me she ran practice because I couldn't run practice, and she was like, "Why are you breathing so heavy?" Because I was like, "Because I haven't cheered in like 10 years." And I had to dance, like, oh my gosh. And so I get to the competition the next day on Sunday, and Demond was like, "What are you doing, Mark?" And I'm like, "I'm competing." And he's like, oh, I've got to see this. And so honestly, that stunt sequence that we did, I mean, we were co-ed stunning, but again, it was nothing crazy hard. It was like a toss, lib, dip, extension hands, QB. There was more pressure on me that day because, one, I had former Graves County athletes that I'd coached that were doing the open team. I had current Morehead cheerleaders, and I wasn't the Morehead coach yet, but I had current Morehead cheerleaders, and and I'm the coach. So I'm out there competing with my athletes because it was an open team. And then I have UCA people that I know that are watching. Like, that was the most stress that I've ever had as an athlete, but never. So those are the 2 official times that I ever competed. One many years past my prime, and after, how old was I? I was like 33 or 34, and so, but never won as an athlete. And then as a coach, I have 30 rings as a coach. Like, I have 19 high school rings between multiple programs. 9. Well, I currently have 8. We're ordering our 9th ring for 2020 for co-ed, and then I have 2 world championships with ICU. So 30 total rings as a coach.
Yeah. We will do one last question here. Sorry if we could not get to you. Pretty standard question for a coach. Tips for building a successful program. Kind of a couple of things that you, as a coach, feel are very important to build a successful program.
Well, let me preface this by saying that, I mean, I don't have a tremendous amount of like experience doing this, because I was fortunate enough to step into Morehead, which was, a machine that was already rolling, especially with my all-girl team. I mean, I stepped into an all-girl team that was, I think 11 or 12 of those girls eventually did Team USA. So like, basically I was coaching Team USA almost for a few years there. I would say basically kind of what I consider just my general mantra as a coach and as a business person is just a lot of hard work. I mean, and we even have that as our mantra at Morehead. We, something that Myron established years ago. We put it on a lot of our T-shirts: hard work plus determination equals winning tradition. And I think just there are something that when I first started my competition company in 2006 and made it an LLC, I started printing shirts that I did. And this is kind of one of those strange connections with me to Morehead that were, just kind of crazy that it happened. Like, I started making little, they're not anagrams, but, TS2SIHW. And then what that was is the secret to success is hard work. And so the high school teams that I would work with, I would print those every year. I would print a new shirt with a new word challenge and try to get them to figure out what it means. And, one year it was the will to win is less than the will to prepare to win, which is a famous Bear Bryant quote. I think there's a version of it that Bobby Knight said that was almost identical. And basically there's just no shortcut. So put in the time, put in the work. I also believe, did Teddy Roosevelt say, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care? Is that a Teddy Roosevelt quote?
Maybe. I've heard that quote before.
Well, I've heard that quote before too, but I saw it on Twitter yesterday, and it said, they attributed it to Teddy Roosevelt. And I'm like, well, cool, man. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, I just think investing in your athletes, working hard, doing research, whatever division you're in. If you're in a co-ed division, you need to research the teams that you're competing against. If you're in an all-girl division, research the teams you're competing against. If you need to become super knowledgeable with your score sheet, if you're competitive. If you're just trying to build a cheer program, I think generating excitement around the team and the program, and in just investing your all. One thing that, I feel like part of the reason why I've been successful is I really enjoy what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about relationships. And hopefully that comes through, I hope that people understand that I really do enjoy what I do. I love what I do. If you love what you do, and you never work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's not entirely true. I work really hard.
Yeah. Yes.
I've worked really hard, and I would say don't be discouraged. I wouldn't be at Morehead if I let the first time that I applied for this job just all right, well, I'm never going to be the coach of Morehead, and I gave up on it. I think maybe being stubborn, with your goals, and just never giving up on your goals, and setting goals, and trying to work as hard as you can to achieve them. And then the other thing is, don't let your failure define you. First cheer team I tried out for, I didn't even officially make the team. I was an alternate, but I didn't quit. I kept working. I was dropping stunts at the first game that I cheered, and I didn't quit, and I kept working hard. Just everything. My whole life with sports, I was pretty good at sports when I was younger, but then I hit puberty late and didn't grow until my senior year of high school, and I guess junior year on to college. And so I was not a very big person. I was not a very fast athlete. I was never the strongest, and I had to work incredibly hard just to kind of be a part of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I would say, all those things: work hard, set goals, never give up on your goals. Be enthusiastic and passionate. Let people know you care. I think all those are all things to do to help get people excited about you and to buy into whatever program you're at and whatever you're trying to do?
Well, usually my last question is, what's the biggest piece of advice you would have or influence you've had? And you've already gone over that. But just real quick, I think we have a couple minutes left before we get cut off again. But just real quick, I know Morehead, just talk about how Morehead is running tryouts this year and kind of that information.
We're all, kind of accommodating the virus situation, and it's caused a lot of changes. So the first time we're doing video tryouts. And so, I've already started to receive some texts and some emails about that. I mean, it's going to be basically, I used to watch Project Runway a lot. It's going to be a make it work moment. There's some cities where gyms are closed. There's some cities that you're not allowed to go in public places.
Yep.
So what I would tell the athletes is, like, just do the best that you can. Obviously, this is a make it work moment for everybody. You're submitting videos of your skills. Obviously your fight song is going to be incredibly important, but you're not even going to more than likely be able to, you're not going to be able to find a stunt group, or probably not going to be able to find a partner that you're going to be able to work with. So you're going to be marking the stunts in the fight song. So you just need to make sure your motions and your standing tuck are on point. You need to really try to sell yourself in your interview video that we have. And our tryout, the way that I did it, and this is my first time organizing a video tryout. So
I feel your pain.
We'll see how it goes. But the easiest way that I thought to do it would be, have segments and then them compile one video. And so we've got an interview portion of the video, then we've got the fight song, then we have their tumbling skills, and then we have stunts. And for their tumbling, we want them to be on a dead mat because that's what we compete on in college. But I mean, I'm expecting to see people throwing stuff in the grass.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's going to be some people that don't feel comfortable tumbling in the grass, but let's say they want to show that they have a full. So I might get high school videos or all-star videos of them throwing their tumbling passes to show what they're capable of doing. And so it's going to be extremely challenging because, we won't be able to meet some of these people. And,
I know.
And I had some people, we give bids to our tryouts at our clinics, but we canceled one of our biggest clinics of the year, which is normally our spring clinic in April. So there are a lot of people that weren't able to come to a clinic and weren't able to get a bid. So I've told those people, and we've tried to put it out on social media, but if they want to get a bid, they just need to reach out to me and send me some videos, and I can give them a bid. I don't normally like to give video bids to our tryouts, but obviously, given the circumstances, I will work with people. And so I've tried to make it easy as possible. I don't know if I could have made more mistakes putting the packet together. I was trying to get it done. People keep, I was like, I'm going to try to have it out by Friday. Okay. And it didn't happen. And so then this weekend, we've been quarantined for 17 or 18 days now or whatever, but my wife's been homeschooling kids. She's not about to really let me work on the weekends much, even though we work every day. Being a college cheer coach is a 24/7 job almost anyway. But she really, we did stuff around the house this weekend, didn't really let me work. So I didn't get the packet until out yesterday. And I'm hurrying, trying to get it out. And my hyperlinks for my videos were wrong. And then I fixed some of them and I didn't fix the other one. And there's just so many things, but just try to get that information out there as soon as possible to everybody. But
so basically, follow MSU_cheer on Instagram and
message us, send me an email, m.coleman@moreheadstate.edu. Send me an email, DM us on our social Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Get in touch with me. Many of them have. Just try to reach out to us, try to reach out to people on the team, and I'll do whatever I can to work with people to try to accommodate them through this crazy time when do you think it's going to end? I'm hoping that we get to do stuff in July. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I'm hoping to. I'm not feeling good about May practice weekend, even June practice weekend. I know I've already been talking to Purdue and and UCA about summer camps. Are we going to have summer camps and can we host them? And it's just been crazy times right now. So
yeah, no, it's been nuts for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Mark Coleman, you will be a guest again. I know you will. I just want to say, hey, brother, I love you, man. Thank you so much for your time today. And stay safe, stay healthy. Tell the family hi for me.
Hey, I love you to death, man. Good friends, and I'm glad that I was able to help out. I'm just super psyched that you're doing this, and I think it's an incredible idea, and I hope it continues to grow. And just, you know, so you can do what we do, share our passion for what we do for a living and our love for that. But looking forward to the non-social distancing version
Yeah, I know.
of you and I getting to hang out again soon. And I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, bud. Thanks, man.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, that is Mark Coleman, coach at Morehead State. Appreciate all of the appreciate just all of the comments from him. I mean, I just cannot believe like he's. Hello again. Just finishing out the show here. Like I said, I guaranteed that Mark and I would go well over an hour, which we did. But Mark Coleman's a good friend of mine, incredible person, incredible guy, incredible coach. Very blessed to have such a great friend in Mark to give his time and talk about himself and obviously the great program that he is now in charge of over at Morehead State University. So once again, a special thank you to Mark Coleman. But we are going to keep kind of the Morehead thing going a little bit, but a former athlete who is now coaching one of the most premier programs in the country. Tomorrow, we have Krista Sanford, the co-ed coach at the University of Alabama. She is a Morehead alum, cheered at Morehead, coached at Morehead, before moving down to Alabama and taking over a couple of excellent programs down there. So tomorrow, again, Coach Krista Sanford, co-ed coach at the University of Alabama, will be joining me again tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern here on Full Out Chats. Again, a special thank you to Mark Coleman and cheeranddancemusic.com for putting together our intro music and sound effects. Again, you can catch this on YouTube and on SoundCloud later. Again, apologies for the audio difficulties earlier. We found out that we are blaming Mark for that. So, but again, thank you all again. This has been so much fun. I'm really enjoying this project and glad that it's really doing well. Please share. Please let people know about it if they want to hear from some of the best college, and not just college all-stars. I'm planning everything. I got some mascot coaches lined up. I got some dance coaches lined up here in the near future. So we're going to do this as a spirit industry. Just very excited to give people a platform to talk about their stories. So again, thank you all very much for coming. I will see you tomorrow. Stay healthy and be safe.